stuck together. Yeah. Things I wish I knew before making my first mead. My first mead was terrible. And now this was before a lot of like modern mead making knowledge was mainstream. And so I didn't know that I needed to know some of the stuff I'm going to tell you in this video, but you're about to learn some stuff, promise. First off, don't boil your honey. Now, I'm not talking about the bochet process where you caramelize honey. I'm talking about there is this process from like the 70s and 80s, homebrewing, where they would mix up their must, which is the base for your mead. That's honey and water. Then they would bring it to a boil and they would sit with like a wire mesh strainer and skim all the solids off the top. What that's doing is potentially burning some of your honey as it sticks to the side of the pot. You're removing solids that might contribute flavor and might also help contribute toward clearing. And you are potentially, in that steam, blowing off volatile flavor and aromatic compounds that otherwise would have been retained in your mead. Is it like the worst practice to do? No, but you also don't need to boil your honey. Secondly, your yeast selection matters. Back in my day, I was fermenting everything with champagne yeast because I wanted everything to be high alcohol and I wanted it to ferment fast. That was a mistake for making mead. Sometimes you can make good meads with champagne yeast. It depends on what you're doing. But you're not going to want to just use a yeast that some guy on YouTube told you to use. You want to do your research. There are a lot of resources for learning about nitrogen requirements for your yeast, temperature preference, phenolics or esters that the yeast is going to put off that may complement or detract from your brew. Yeast is not just yeast, and your yeast is basically as important as your honey choice when you're making a mead. We have a whole video on making your own mead recipe on our YouTube channel. I would go check that out because we cover a lot of this stuff in there. Yeast selection is crazy important. For a good mead that doesn't need 2 or 3 years worth of age, you need good nutrition because that prevents some of the yeast stress that leads to the off flavors that result in longer aging times. So I like to recommend nutrients like Fermate O, Fermate K, boiled bread yeast even, or diammonium phosphate, and staggering those nutrients so the yeast have a balanced diet over several days that keeps them from just gobbling up the nutrients and going, and it also helps alleviate temperature spikes that you see that can create off flavors by giving them that slow roll balanced diet. There are a lot of things that can make a mead go bad, and most of them are really easy to avoid.